Nobody is doing biashara in Kenya and doesn't have
A
like
plug.
a black book where he just stands to and says, "Hey, boss, nahitaji this and that." Whether it's the cops, whether it's at the port in Kilindini, your staff hasn't moved or
Mm.
whatever, it's being delayed. There's no way to get things done. And this is how the economy works. That envelope is what guys depend on because most of them are not waiting for the salary to come. And you've come with the best intentions ever. You've got, I don't know, you've got a nice house in Runda, you're renting out, and things happen, and suddenly USAID tenant is telling you, hey, that car 2 year
Lease.
lease, we now have to rethink it because
We've been shut
this
down.
thing has shut down and suddenly I have to go elsewhere. To that person in Runda, that was one of the income streams.
Mhm.
So they had another four where things like this happen. They're not hitting spikes and low areas of volatility. You have to know a guy. And the way things have happened in Kenya, uh, we now have enough counties where there's enough dons all over the place.
I want us to talk about money, mbesha, fulus, because this is where most relocation plans either survive or fall apart, like that book by Chinua Achebe. A lot of diasporans believe if they move back with one solid income stream, they'll be fine. Please break it down for us. Why is one income stream not enough in Kenya, Kimani?
Lovely. Kwanza, let's go back to Fiji.
Yes.
Fiji still holds.
Yeah. Huh?
And the
It
reason
still holds,
holds
huh?
is,
Yeah.
it still holds. The reason is, you remember Fiji was vacation. It was on a question
Correct.
of, do you 100% look every time you want to go on vacation and say
Yeah.
Kenya,
Mhm.
Kenya, Kenya?
Yes.
Zero. Fiji still holds. There's also the part where even when we go home as, I don't know, tourists, the reception is not as reception of everyone else. Meanwhile, the reception we get in Fiji, Jamaica, Vietnam, wherever, is someone who's coming with dollars. For some reason, we have value to those economies. But to the Kenyan economy, you're just another Nyaudi coming back. Whole different story. The one income stream story, hey man, that's hard. That's hard, huh? And I don't know what a solid income stream is. Is it a job you have or a business you have that is working and making things happen abroad, and then you're operating in Kenya, managing the business? Or are you, do you have a sweet gig in Kenya and that sweet gig is uh, keeping you up well? The thing is, if it's the latter, the situation always comes up where things didn't go according to plan, or things didn't work out, or a multitude of stories. And then suddenly you find yourself in now experiencing the real Kenya. What happens when that doesn't work out? It's a whole different story. If the income stream is solid and it's one, that's fine. If it's coming from abroad, it's reliable. You have some government contracts and you have some trucks in Dallas and you're moving merchandise. Yeah, run your business from Kenya. It will continue to work. The payments will continue. They'll be hitting your account. Things are seamless. You will go to your account and see the payments that are supposed to come hit. And if not, you make a phone call and suddenly you're told it will be there in 48 hours. There was a mix up somewhere. That same experience, you chasing that payment in Kenya, is not going to be 48 hours. It's going to be a while. And even when you do get it, it's likely that you will have split it up with the guy paying you, the CFO of that company that is supposed to pay you or whatever. That guy is taking a cut. And I thought this only happens at a certain income level or a certain professional or whatever. Um, I've been in places with the later Chris Kirubi, and someone was saying how they're doing a gated community. I think it was in Karen or somewhere. And, they threw out the concept and were over there having tea. And Kirubi says, why don't you do this? Give me one, and then you can advertise that you will be neighbors with Kirubi. Even at his level,
What?
and you will find that everywhere. You go to government offices and you need things to move. my friend, Bwana, you will have to part with some ownership percentage or you've got cash. Usually they want cash because they don't see a thing working out in another 5 years. They want the more immediate uh, way
Payout.
of saying, yeah, nilikusaidia hapa, chota. And sometimes when you're trying to do a business that doesn't have cash flows until later, you will have spent so much money trying to move the paperwork along the way. I was involved with a concept that um, was one of the first PPP projects in Kenya. And it got, green lighted and everything, and documents were signed back in 2014. Mpaka wa leo, there is not anything on the ground to say imeanza. But you've moved a lot of paper, you've consulted many people, you've got financiers and marketing, and you've done all your due diligence and ecological studies, and all this paperwork has moved. But to this day, 12 years later, bado hujaanza. You have to have infinite amount of time to say you're willing to let the process work. And maybe some guys do. Those are the guys who've got 5 other projects working or in some way already providing income, and years now can take 20 years by the time it starts producing income.
So Kimani, it's interesting because in the US, like diversification, and you mentioned, right, like if you have one solid income stream, like from another place, like from America, it might work. But if you're doing, if your income streams are coming from Kenya, our US context of diversification is more about I'm diversifying so that if real estate is going down, stocks are going up, like I'm balancing out my returns, like over the short term and over the long run. But in Kenya, there was something that you said about diversification. It's not necessarily about the same reasons we do diversification in the US. You said it's about survival. So maybe just explain that part, what you meant, that you diversify to survive. Kimani.
In the US, even if you're looking at investments, when you talk about diversification, all you're trying to do is reduce volatility.
Yes.
And uncertainty. Yeah, you don't want those spikes to hit you too hard. Down 10 points, up 10 points. That's too much noise. You want to be moving around 2%, 1% happen. You're kind of just streamlining the volatility so that you're not hitting spikes all over the place, up and down, -15, -20, kadhalika. Kenya, the purpose for that is the uncertainty is so great, you don't have a choice. And you've come with the best intentions ever. You've got, I don't know, you've got a nice house in Runda, you're renting out, and things happen, and suddenly your USAID tenant is telling you, hey, that car 2-year lease, we now have to rethink it because this thing has shut down, and suddenly I have to go elsewhere. To that person in Runda, that was one of the income streams. So they had another 4 where things like this happen. They're not hitting spikes and low areas of volatility. That's the one thing you do in Kenya. And it goes all the way to as basic as, living somewhere where you're on a half-acre farm and you've got some chickens running around and all that stuff. You've got food on the table first and a roof over your head. Then all these other things are trying to help out so that you can kind of somehow maintain some stability.
Okay, all right. So that is interesting. Michael, there's something that you wanted to add.
No, I wanted to ask, Kimani, how important, we've had this conversation or whatever, and I guess in order for you to have multiple streams of income vis-a-vis just one, but how important is it? Or is it important to have or to know a guy somewhere to have your stuff be facilitated? Or in Ali's words, brown envelope.
Hey. You have to know a guy. And the way things have happened in Kenya, we now have enough counties where there's enough dons all over the place. So where one guy could be what was necessary back in the day, you now kind of have to spread your wings and have a few strategic guys all over the place. If you want to do something in Mombasa County, have a Mombasa County kind of guy. It doesn't matter where you live. There just has to be some local who can make things happen in that geographical region. It's just the way it is nowadays. Or if you got great connects and you're one or two guys who, number one talks to on a daily basis, then you're all set. But for the most part, you just need a lot of guys. And on a look, when my mom was in business back in the day, she had like a black book, She had like a problem with elec. Aya, who is that kage? No, at power. And you'll go to steamer house and things will be sorted. Kajo, same thing. So you have to have a few guys that can make things happen. Things have just become too decentralized ever since we got into many counties. You kind of need like a local guy where you're trying to do something, and then maybe like a main guy for mambo za Nairobi.
And this would be like, for now, like standard operating procedure.
Standard.
Okay.
Nobody is doing biashara in Kenya and doesn't have
a plug,
like a black book where he just stands to and says, "Hey, boss, nahitaji this and that." Whether it's the cops, whether it's at the port in Kilindini, your staff hasn't moved or whatever, it's being delayed. There's no way to get things done. And this is how the economy works. That envelope is what guys depend on, because most of them are not waiting for the salary to come. You've got like a small KRA issue. Yeah, you have your KRA chap.
Now
it's just a reality.
Yes. So, before I go to my next question here, there's something that Devon is saying on YouTube. Devon, karibu sana. Anasema couples need to save aggressively, with one partner visiting Kenya to oversee projects. Using professionals and tools like WhatsApp or CCTV can help you manage and monitor progress in Kenya remotely. Now, real quick, Kimani, do you agree with Devon? Do you not? WhatsApp, CCTV, you can see live. People are walking in, they're walking out, they're stealing. Hata uko na mic up. Wait, stop. How does that work?
Hammer time.
Yeah.
Can't touch this.
Yeah.
Maze, it will be an extremely futile process to think you have any level of comfort knowing how gongwi. I think you do some things in Kenya, and if you're away, just accept 20 to 40% is being out of the way.
Yeah,
it's gone. It's accept that, and then you'll be much better off. Because when you think you have systems and cameras and speaker, you can tell a guy away. It's not as a break. These guys, man, it's how they live. When you go and give that guy the envelope in steamer house or whatever, there's trickle-down effect. Even him, he'll need Yanni to give someone else. So it's like the economy depends on that inefficiency for it to work.
Okay.
That is part of the process. Especially you're abroad. Hey, these guys know you'll be taking a plane every other week. I've seen, my dad chase things at Embakasi Ranching. Those are the guys who sold what used to be Roy, the plantation, and so subdivided it. You'll go there, and these guys will wait you out. Kwanza, they hear the car accent and whatever, and they know somehow you slipped and said, unaka maju, so you need an answer in 2 weeks. Boss. These guys are just relaxing. You're gonna go back, because you can't stop what you're doing elsewhere so that you try to get the inefficiency to work for you. You just have to accept that. Okay. Envelopes are part of the day,
life,
and 20 to 40% kwa kashamba ama whatever.
Yeah.
Hiyo inaenda tu.
Okay. Napa, like Ali from Atlanta is saying, I know a guy from home here who has $1 million in cash and is scared of moving back home. Yet he says he's miserable here. Bado ana listen to Kanda Bongo man. That's how nostalgic he is. And then his father says, anaogopa kwenda home because he's scared of getting ripped off. I tell him, just pretend to be poor for a while and get the feel of the place. This thing of pretending to be poor, does it work, Kimani?
Mazi, it's like saying, you're going to a Halloween party and nobody's going to recognize who you are. The moment you step into that country, there's something about you, the way you walk, the way you talk, I don't know, the bright colors on your clothing that don't look like they were liquid outside in the sun, so they faded. Something. You give yourself away. There's no way you're going to protect yourself from that. And once, you've been identified as you're not a local,
Fresh meat.
the process,
Potential.
the process has a way of just, working through you. I would love to say that, if you could, Kwanzaa, like now I saw that there's direct flights from Dubai to Mombasa. If you could bypass Nairobi and just land coast and somehow just melt into the port of guys living in Kwale or something, you might get far. But there's just a process, you'll call a Rela or something, Rela will tell someone, suddenly your story is known. So you can only hide for so much.
Yeah, kabisa. Yeah, and Hilda Kimai hapa on Facebook is saying this show is very informative and educational. Applaud all of you. Keep doing the good work. Thank you so much, Hilda. Please tell us where you're tuned in from. And there's like an exchange here going about Nancy's project, Nancy Mirozi's project. Because Nancy was the project she was talking about. He was working with her county. Esther is saying, I support what Nancy did, but we have to be careful not to impose Western-based projects without consulting the people on the ground. For example, some rural farmers will not part with their traditional heirloom seeds. They reject GMOs, and rightfully so, because heirloom seeds are resistant to pests. And then Nancy was asking Esther, how was it Western? And Esther responds by saying that was a broad example. The operative word in West is Western-based. Foreign-based funding is suspect to dictatorial regimes too. That's another problem. And then Tieno Jimbo, joins in the conversation and says, I get what you're saying. That has been a discourse on international NGOs and economic development. However, I think we should also be careful not to characterize Nancy's projects as imposing Western-based project, because we only have a glimpse of what it was. We don't have the details of the organization and implementation. And then Nancy says, I believe in data-informed decisions. We ask the CS carefully and thoughtfully questions. Example, grains and why Kenya was importing grains. Transportation and spoilage were key concerns. Google SUKUP Sukup Silos, a great Iowa company with patents that would have helped solve this issue. And then Nancy Father says, also, I have mentioned seeds and GMO, that is a separate conversation. So please don't make assumptions on my comments. Thanks. And Hilda Kimai says, I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Salimia watu wote wa North Carolina. So Kimani, just coming background to our conversation of money. We veered off a bit. Let's make it practical for someone watching. You're talking about multiple income streams. What combinations actually work on the ground if someone is relocating today? What forms of income streams would you consider a strong starting structure? Of course, we've talked about remote income, there's rental income, business, consulting, salary job, side hustle. What's a good combination that you would consider, Kimani?
As many of those sources as possible being abroad. I thought the young guys who are doing university papers for guys abroad, I thought that was brilliant.
Yes.
I said, oh my goodness, this is a home run. You can do this all day, all week, and you will be doing your thing every weekend. Bila shida. Pesa in the bank. Some guys is getting A's on your sweat, and you can't get a job in Kenya. That was brilliant.
Yeah,
I
there's
thought
no
that was
job.
the best.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
until someone decided to go and say this is what's happening. But I don't know
It's
why
still
we
there,
keep shooting
though.
ourselves.
CBS
it's still
CBS
there.
reported it.
Yeah, it's still there.
But now there's Chat GPT, so
Yes.
Yeah,
there's
but
a way in which AI kind of
Yeah, but remember the papers that people are doing for you are written. So even if AI is even if you run it through the AI portal, it's fine. And that's where the difference is. When somebody is writing versus you're using a bot to do it for you, right?
Okay.
You can actually tell. You can tell what's what.
Okay. Yeah. So what combination is ideal of income streams, Kimani, for someone going in today?
Have one that is basic, not necessarily in terms of income, but survival. Your food is taken care of. Your home is taken care of. You are in a place where that is not a question. All the other things you're doing are now going to be playing some kind of casino game where you're trying to see which one has the greatest odds of success without it being too much demanding on your time. Guys talk about rental properties. Use the Disney idea. You go to Disney in Orlando, they have $800 hotel room all the way to a parking spot for your camper at $25 a day. Somehow find a way that those incomes, even if they're coming from rental, are just not runda concentrated. You're hitting different kinds of situations. You've got a set of flats. You are doing something with some corporation that looks like it's solid enough to pay, and you're good. I like the guys in TZ who have rental properties with NGOs and stuff. Those guys are getting paid a year to 2 years in advance. Man, that takes care of volatility right there. What you're trying to do is minimize the shocks. And minimizing the shocks just means that your income streams are varied enough where they're not impacted. One is not impacted by another.
Okay. All right. So there's also a question that was coming in, outside on why we dismiss the story for the kids. I did not dismiss it. We have only 3 hours, remember. And within these 3 hours, today we want to give a survival guide, like some of the basics of someone who's moving. So all these topics, remember, in episode now on this moving back, it's episode number 4.
4.
Yes, it's episode number 4. So not to worry, write down all these topics. And if Kimani has to come back, we will trick him again to come spend another Friday with us. So not to worry. We have so much to cover.
Na tubonge stories
Yes.
awatoi.
Yes. And your story, our Toi Kwanza, that I think
It's
deserves
very-
It
an-
deserves its
an
own
episode
whatever.
on its own.
Yeah.
Story our Toi, health. We need Dr. Alan.
Yes.
Family. in terms
Education.
of-
Yes.
Education.
Overall.
I'm talking to someone, who's in Kenya with kids, recently moved there. We're planning to get out. So we will cover all these bases before World Cup. Because World Cup ikiingia,
FYI.
yeah. World Cup
FYI.
ikiingia,
Hiyo ni story.
We're
Yeah.
gonna be in an RV
you'll be in a,
touring
it will
the
be a whole
US.
different story.
Because-
and Mexico and Canada.
Because we have those guys called Leopa.
Yeah.
DRC Congo. Leopa.
Unajua
Yeah.
wako hapa wanaanza na wapi?
Wanaanza-
The A, they're gonna be in the A playing sijui Uzbekistan. When?
Yeah.
June 27.
Tuko na Leopa.
June
Yeah.
20.
So
Kanyo kanyo.
So before nisahau watu wa YouTube, because YouTube has also been quite a bit active. Warimonderetu is saying sounds like we need to shift our mindsets back to the way our parents made it work. Our parents' generation understood that having 20 units in Roysambu for income was wiser than having one Runda house. And this is very true. And this is something that Mika also, taught me.
Yes.
Rather than buy, a 20 million apartment in Kilimani, you'd rather take that 20 or 25 million
Split it
and
4
buy 20 units in Babadogo or somewhere where you consider that I could never come to this place. Those are the people who are making money.
Watu kwa ground, yeah.
And then kuna Mauk Adante says, I know very stable USD millionaires here in Seattle who have decided to die and be buried and cremated here. And then as Ali from Atlanta says, how much cash in dollars do you need to live in Kenya if you're in your mid 50s. I have boys here who want to go back and retire. Is there a magical dollar number? We are gonna get to that part on how much cash you need for survival. So Ali, stay tuned. And then Ali Father says someone should probably start a diaspora retirement place in coast like Florida, get it from the government and thieves. I think there's someone from Seattle, if I'm not mistaken.
These things are there. We
who's
just
already
don't
started.
know.
We just don't know.
They're there.
Yeah, and I think I might have seen it in Alex Chamwada's, Daring Abroad. There's someone who started something similar to
Even
this.
our girl who was here with the diaspora movers. What's her name?
We will remember. There's someone else, PWCHR, says, hey, income for retiring early is well known there in the US. Rental income from the US is good, but it's not completely passive. So figure out how to manage when you're in Kenya. Rentals in Kenya are also quite involving. Stock and index funds are a good one. Invest enough to survive on the 4% perpetual withdrawal rule. And this withdrawal rule, for those in the finance world, I'm sure Kimani understands this, is kuna the $1 million. If you have $1 million and it's making around 10% every year, which is $100,000. So you withdraw 1% of that 4 million, which is only 40,000. You will remain with $1,060,000. And then the following year, your 4% will have grown because now you'll be withdrawing 4% of $1,060,000. So you'll keep withdrawing, but that money will keep growing. It's a certain rule that's used for retirement, which we can talk about more in detail, like when we get to talk about finances. And hapa Facebook umechacha pia, and then Atieno Jimbo anasema, at least this for people returning while still within working age, or those who are retired in America and relocating to Kenya with enough retirement benefits. I think like we are going both ways. And then Jessica Rangu is in the building.
Jessica Rangu has joined in.
Yes, great conversation. I think he's thinking about retirement.
Mr. USA journalist.
Yes, and then hapa Nancy anasema,
that's said it.
Nancy anasema one Kenyan group that should be on this show is the Data Labelers Association. Find them on LinkedIn and you will see how much Kenya has contributed to the AI world and its cost. Kina Joan Kinywa. So Nancy, inbox me. I would like more detail on that. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. We have Kimani in studio again talking about relocating. Now tonight we are focusing on how to make it work. If you have to move, how are we going to make it work? Now, Kimani, here is the other question. Where do people get this wrong? We're talking about returnees. What are the most common bad setups you saw where people thought they were secure, but they were actually exposed? Kimani.
Starts with the idea that you've got it figured out, that, it's home. I was born there. I know this place. And, the local will keep telling you, hey, here you don't know how things are working. But you are convinced you've got it figured out. And you've got this master plan that has to work because, it worked elsewhere. It worked in a foreign land. You were not born, neither did you speak the language, and you came speaking funny and could not be understood or understand what others are saying to you. So how difficult is it to get it to work in a place that is familiar? The idea that it's familiar is what throws you off fast. It takes a long time for you to accept what you don't know. You're so overconfident and you're so ingrained in your own idea of success takes 2 years, or success will happen at the 18th month mark because you have done all the groundwork. It becomes very challenging to overcome that mentality and then now start working with, okay, in fact, now I need someone who's local to break it down for me because I really don't know. And if you get an honest person, they'll tell you, you guy, that project you're talking about, it's never going to happen. Because what's going to happen is with each layer of certification that you require, whether it's government or elsewhere, there'll be some erosion of ownership percentage. And if it started costing you $20 million when you started, By the time you're finished with your certifications, it will be about 70 million. And whoever had done for you the feasibility had done a feasibility of a 20 million project, worst case 30 million. Now you're talking 70 million, it's no longer viable. And you fall apart and suddenly things become very clear. You just didn't know enough going in. You're now much more educated, but you just didn't know enough. And the time it takes you to accept what you don't know is what derails you big time. I think you just go there as green as anything. I am moving to Vietnam. I know nothing about the people. I don't know what they speak. I know they eat rice, tosha gari.
Yeah.
And then from there, let's see how we can make this biashara work. Let me see who are the right people, the right certifications I need, and try and make it happen. But the idea that it's familiar, man, that throws a major curveball. It derails you big time.
Now, Kimani, then this connects to something critical that Ali from Atlanta was asking here on YouTube. How much of a financial cushion do you actually need to survive those shocks before your system stabilizes? Do you need a 12-month cushion, 18, 24 months? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? So imagine, like I am fresh. I'm planning to move in 2027 because I believe, President Ruto is gonna be defeated and we'll have a new Kenya and everyone is happy. What cushion should I be moving with once I've established these are gonna be my survival expenses? So what cushion should I have, Kimani?
Your cushion just ought to be how long you expect to be there before income starts. And I'd say give it 3 to 5 years. Just say for 3 to 5 years, I'm on survival mode. I've got my basics covered. My rents, my food, my insurance, kadhalika, and my ability to chase whatever it is I'm chasing for our business. Then after that, if it happens sooner, great. But you are covered for 5 years. If it happens in year 3, you're good.
But that 3 to 5 years, what numbers are we talking about? Because you have practical experience. If you're redoing this again, what numbers are we talking about on average if you're living in Nairobi?
Well, someone said, again, it depends on what your situation is. Are you there with family? Are you there with kids? Is school fees involved? Are you going to need a driver to take kids to school? If you're solo, that's a much different story. So you need your basic rent, some living amount, some insurance. And, I'd say a single guy. I know a guy who moved from Arizona and he was on a military pension. And he was straight up. I got $1,300 and I'm going to go and I'm going to be in the village and I'll just live there. I need some time to clear my mind. And it worked great for him because $1,300, he was able to live somewhere in the village and life was great. Once we start talking about city living and everything, suddenly the costs escalate. And again, there's some guys who can come in and, every day they come back from work or whatever they were chasing and just go home and bypass every bar or every soccer game happening that you're hearing guys are cheering and just not feel like you want to enter. So these things are very dependent on, your idea of what are your basic necessities to live on.
So we can conservatively say, like, if you can, whatever your situation is, if you can survive on, let's say, $3,000 a month, let's just say ballpark, that is 36 a year. You multiply that by 3. I don't know whether your Pacherian math will help you, Mike. 36 times 3, 18. Kariwan.
Let us ask Sakaja about that.
No, that's $108,000. So we can fairly say that we are talking at least $100,000 in a cushion at a fairly bare minimum for an average person moving out there. Kimani.
That's not an average person, man. 100 thou.
Yeah.
100 thou is quite liquid. At present exchange rate.
Yeah.
That's a Changerian talking, so be easy on him.
Well, yeah. You see why it's so hard to say what the basic is.
Yeah.
Because that's about $1 million bob.
100K. No, 100K is more than $1 million. Because 10K is $1 million. 10K.
$1 million shillings.
Yeah, 100K. That you're talking about 10 million or 13 million. 100K dollars. Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about 100K US dollars. Isn't that 13 million Kenya shillings, $100,000?
Roughly.
Yeah.
Okay,
About 13
roughly
million.
13.
Yeah.
So you're at 1.1 or thereabouts
Yeah.
per
month.
right around a million
Yeah.
per month.
Per month, yeah.
A million per month, you're not average, man. You're balling.
No, but
You're balling.
that's not $1 million per month. That is 3,000 per month, because I'm talking about the 3 years.
Huh?
I'm talking about a cash buffer for the 3 years, because we talked about a cash cushion, or
3 or
maybe
5
am I
years.
reading it wrong? Am I
Tell
reading
me,
it wrong?
how much are you looking to have per year?
So I'm looking to spend $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
All
my
right.
expenditure.
So, okay. All
Yeah.
right. So we're talking about $36,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is average. You're living good. You're okay.
So you're living an average good life. So
Yeah.
so if I'm moving, like what kind of cushion for someone who's spending at $3,000 a month? What kind of cash cushion do I need to have? Like either in a bank account or like a liquid brokerage, somewhere where I can pull the money in case my other income streams don't work.
Hey, may I say you have that cash somewhere in the States? Just use your ATM card to withdraw. They'll knock you on the FX rate, but you're much more secure. Kenya is, how do you ensure that you're not being hit by normal shenanigans? I don't know, a check went through that you were not expecting, or someone at the bank gongered you, or all these things. These shocks are going to come. So try as much as possible to insulate yourself. Let it be elsewhere, but have access to it, and then say, okay, me, I'm on $3,000 a month, and you're sorted. But
Okay.
have it elsewhere. Someone said in one of the comments, fixed income is an option. You've got enough bonds and they are paying some interest into some account somewhere, hopefully abroad, and you tap into that on a monthly basis and you're good. But
Okay.
have it elsewhere.
Have it elsewhere.
Yeah, because I think also-
that's a critical point.
Yes.
That's a very critical point, because I came to learn. We had an episode last year with Jen Mukami, like where she said, was it $13,000? I think she
Yes.
lost about $13,000 in her Equity Bank account. And these are things that people never think about. Another thing that people don't think about, like I was telling my mom, and she was so shocked that she did not know all these years she's been banking in Kenya, that the amount that is insured, we had assumed at that time that it was 1 million, but it's actually not 1 million. I was wrong. It is 500,000. Only 500,000 is insured. So if your bank collapses, so
The most you're gonna get is 500K.
so if
And
and you
even
have 5
getting
million,
that, even
Yeah.
getting that is
in the words of Kimani, you have to pay somebody to get that back.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like if you hold a bank account in Kenya, and banks do collapse in Kenya. We've seen Premier Bank, we've seen a number of banks collapsing. So just know that if you're holding more than 500,000 Kenya shillings in Kenya, at least diversify into another bank. Like have separate bank accounts.
unasema spread them out.
Yeah, spread them out, because if for those who have 5 million shillings in cash in one bank, just know if that bank collapses, then 500K ndio unapokea.
And just to be sort of, so I'm sure so the $3,000 a month,
Yeah.
is that inclusive of you as one person, or it is you and family?
I'm assuming that's family. $3,000
Family.
a month. Yeah, $3,000 a month. That's because that's almost 400K
Yes,
Kenyan money.
because now also you have to consider unapeleka watoto shule wapi,
That's
Well,
because
Yes.
because
You have different levels of family, right?
yeah,
So
but I'm saying like
where
even with
do
that
you fall?
yeah, where do you fall? So that 3,000 hii sasa hii 3,000 unapata
so I calculated.
mtoi unapeleka mtoi shule wapi?
I calculated an average school,
Kangemi
like an
primary.
average good school, not Peponi, not Banda School, not ISK, maybe just like McKinney School. You're talking about 150K a month, not a term. If you have 2 kids, you're talking about 1.8 million in a year for 2 kids, which is about maybe is it 300K? 1.8 million divided by 3, 600K. So about 300K per kid per term. Like not only fees, plus also those are the trips and those are the things that those schools normally do, because there's other expenses that come in.
So that's how you arrived at
Marom
the 3,000.
Yeah, like $3,000.
You should have done 3 kids because most guys have got 3 toys.
Yeah, around. What do you mean most guys? Kwani you guys, you have statistics with most guys?
3 kids. Angalia huku nje tu.
Okay, sawa. We will ask Nancy Mwirotsi to ask those data guys if that's true.
That 3 kids.
Yeah,
three kids is
that
the
everyone
norm.
has 3 kids. Yeah. So that has to do with cash. Like wow, so many comments. Coming in here. Esther Mulusa nauliza, are the phone lines open? Yes, it's 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Starly Key anasema save it in dollars, use it as you go. And then Samingure anasema great conversation. You said we have a caller. Now before we go to the caller,
yeah, we have a caller, but carry on.
Okay, before we go to the caller, let me see. We have a comment here from on YouTube from Wairimo. He's saying moving back is not a one size fits all. There's a number of 40-somethings with kids pivoted from their trained careers and are making it work on farms, homeschooling. Since COVID, it is successful. And then Mauka nasema Nairobi is one wash and you are home and dry looking for the next flight.